Hello and welcome back. Well, it's a little different video. It's just going to be talking points, I guess. I'm just going to keep that in. There's a little different approach than what I usually do. Kind of garner a little interest in the idea of doing things a little different. Got an email from one of my viewers, and just kind of made me think about. You mentioned something about podcast and other segments or whatever else was within there, and I answered the question, but I never really thought about that. It'd be I really don't think I believe I have enough knowledge, but not enough experience in there. Or maybe someone would just be like, "Hey, let's hear your point of view." I would take them up, but that's something that I just don't. I like my 30 hours of what I do. I want to be able to do a little more, and I can do a little more than the roughly 30, maybe 33. I mean, if I were to bump up my work to 50, I would be occupied doing that as opposed to occupied bouncing around from one channel to another, to another, to another. Just talking about the different approaches on how I do things. This video's purpose is consider what I just said, like the intro. That's not going to be what it's going to be all about. It's the talking point. So an example would be, why did I or have I over the almost 30 years of just selling? I've sold from my first sale to now. It's been almost 30 years of selling on eBay, different accounts. The one that I have now is 13 years old. Why, of all those years, and if it's something that is I think the best way how to kind of start it or predicate it on is it's a great place to sell stuff. The amount of people that can see your item, and even at the price rate and the costs and everything rate, it's still doing, for the most part, depending on all your other costs as opposed to a brick and mortar, you're doing better than a brick and mortar percentage wise. Should be. And if you always have stuff listed and it really doesn't cost anything until it sells, it's like having on a shelf that everybody's eyes at any given point can see the one that you have. Taking that basis in many years later, at a point in my early 40s, not too long ago, I was like, I got to start doing something a little different. Just doing what I was doing before. Not really hardcore work, but some landscape and lawn and other things. But for the most part, I was a canvasser. So that meant that I would go door to door for whichever company I worked for. And I worked for a larger window and door company out here for 5 years. I always thought it was 7, but it's not. 5 years. Off and on, they kept hiring me back. And as a canvasser, if you know anyone who does door to door, if you did door to door, there's, depending on what you're doing, it could be a minimum of 60K, upwards of 150K for just going around knocking doors. And to get real good, you only have to work for 2 hours out of the whole day. And then you get, well, for the company I was working for, you get paid for the whole day. Do your minimum and you're done. And your minimum was 2. So you can get extra spiffs, that's the bonuses, daily bonuses and so on, and to help everything all the way around. And then I managed the office up here. That's how I ended up in Menor. And before that, I was down in Merriman Valley. So instead of walking around and knowing that it is good to do that, how can I do a little less of it and a little less work for something that's enjoyable to do? Well, I've already sold on eBay for decades, so why not beef that up a little more? So up here in Menor, where I'm at, for any of you not new, you know, you may have even gone on your own Google, be like, he's in Menor, and he said he went out to Avon. How far of a drive is it? You may have even gone on your own maps to kind of see in reference to where I'm talking about distances. Just hit Menor, zoom out for the 50-mile range, and type in thrift stores near me, and there's going to be a bunch of them. I live by a bunch of thrift stores, apparently, and a lot of other people don't. So at that point already, of what I was selling was basically anything but media. And it kind of, and yeah, obviously I'm outside. I'm waiting for Bandit to come back, and I also call him Extra Kitty because we already have 5, and he only comes out here every once in a while, so he's like 5.1, so he's just a little extra. Waiting for him to come back and move the food. Right when I was getting ready to bring the tripod outside and just kind of make a random talking point video, our little stray cat here, it's named Bandit. Bandit, that's it, right? He'll stay about that distance. I'll put some food out. We have to go put it somewhere else because I was going to make a video. But so the stuff that I was more geared toward, and I mentioned this before, was the smaller things, smalls. And no matter what it would be, now there could have been a lot of other things I could have bought at the stores when I was there just looking at smalls, and every once in a while I would. However, the smaller things I was looking for was just first class, preferably, and you could tell, you would know. If something weighs more than your phone, it's going to cost at least $5 at that point. It was 4. But you could keep all shipping under 4. But I would look at bigger things as well. Either way. So I was at the smalls, and there's still a few smalls that I will buy: remote controls, some power supplies, some good brands. I mean, find yourself a 1.5 pound big Yamaha power brick for whatever, a keyboard, a massive portable dual stack organ. Get one of those. Yeah, it's like $200 for. I mean, so they vary. But what is everywhere? What is constant? What is easy to go through? What is, to me at least, easy to learn? Because it's easy to go through, it makes it easier to learn the types of genres and topics and so on and so forth. The things that I mean, for clothing, you don't want to look at styles, but that changes all the time. For physical media, here's a tangent. For physical media, there's the original and reprints. Chances are that original is it. So if there were 10,000 or a million of one original and no reprints, that's it. So it makes it to where it has a tangible use as well. The video, the instructional, whatever it may be, the words, spoken, song for CDs, the instructional for PC and just CD-ROMs of that manner, software. A lot of that PC stuff is interesting. I mean, if you watch the channel, you can see some of them. If you haven't, you could just go to the playlist of $100 plus sales, and there's a good handful of things that are PC related. Same thing with uh, words on paper, books. People want that physical copy. So with everything that media has to offer, it made it a lot easier to, especially with the eBay scanner. If you don't know the eBay, so when they brought that out, probably 5 years ago, probably right around there. It wasn't like 10. It was maybe 5 years ago they brought the scanner out, and it was good that it was originally because you could just pick the scanner. However, they've changed it and they haven't changed it back, but it works. Still does its job. 1 or 2 extra steps you have to do now, but it still does its job. And they can read the barcodes. Now, over the past 4 years, as more data has been put in there, more stuff comes up to where now when you're scanning something, it actually stands a chance to show up, as opposed to 4 years ago, if you were scanning media, 30%, 40% wasn't showing up. It would come up not available, not found or something along those lines. So what they've done, that's added more. Now the stuff that doesn't come up, you just hand type. Now you're limited on what you have to hand type. So you go find a couch, and this is stuff I used to say early in the videos. You go find a couch or seat, something, anywhere where you could sit down, make it easier on your body, and just hand type stuff and get a little more specific. Use scrutiny on how you're bearing things up. Be very strict on what you're typing into the therapy, and you're able to get more narrow results. Now I'm going to go back into, so that's why I got more into media, because it is just readily available and it's easy to find. It's usually always darn near the cheapest. it stands a very, very good chance to sell fast. Now, granted, I haven't made a sales video. I think it was one yesterday. It wasn't one today. I remember if I sourced yesterday. Yeah, I sourced yesterday. I believe there was a video for that. Wasn't a sales. Yeah, correct. So there wasn't a sales video yesterday. There wasn't one today. It was 5 things went out for 170. But there were 2 people, strangely, paid for priority mail, and whichever else. So it wasn't enough for the 200. And I didn't source today. I just listed the discs. But that's how quick that was. I mean, I didn't get started till like 10 because I knew I wasn't going to do anything because it's been raining all day. Started at 10 pictures, maybe at 10, and I got all that stuff lax. 25 listings for like $840 after everything was on sale. And that was 3 hours. I was done in maybe a little over 3 hours, but going kind of slow doing because I knew I wasn't going to be doing anything else. All the way back on track. So getting into media has just made it to where I can stay a little more busy, and I'm not parching myself, running myself dry, going out trying to find all these other little smalls, let alone for testing and all that. So easy to work with. That's why media is just easy to work with. What do you have to plug in? What batteries do you have to test? Which ones, special ones, do you have to buy? Granted, you could take for the most part, a lot of that stuff is pretty cheap to get, but it's just more. I have to test. I have to test. I have to test. After a while, I mean, I'm the bigger, bulkier, more sophisticated the electronics look. Spend the time to look it up, small or large, right? That Technique's record player. Now, if it was working, it probably would have been about $150. They wanted $8 for it. I could have bought it and parsed it out, but that's more work for just that. I won't even want to. I'd actually just want to buy it to just get it fixed and use it. But so the facet of time, and no, okay. The next point was the different types of operations that I do that I go through for like the sell similars, the 3 views over 3 months or more, and clicking if it has 4 or 5, whatever the amount is, bring it down, drop it, disc media about 5%. All these little things that I do, that's just stuff that's been accrued on how I find it more reactive, eBay reactive, potentially buyer reactive, if you stay active. Is that a cliche? The more you do on your eBay page, the more likely it's going to garner some sort of traction and attention to people to your store. Yeah, but the best part is, and the first part helps bringing people to the store. The only part that really, that does matter because you're buying stuff to sell. So the only part that matters when people come to your store is if they buy. So media. Oh yeah. So I was going with some of the media that I just sold. Was stuff that I just listed. The one was that biology, the Prentice Hall biology that already sold. That was only up for a couple of days. That sold for $38. That Planet 2 game. Yeah, I did show that because I got that in the day when I got all the sealed DVDs. That's already gone. One of those CDs that was just listed with that stuff that I just mentioned is already gone. And I just got to putting that small stack away and the stuff that I put up today. And the Jimmy Buffett. Dude, I have, okay, so here's kind of a more close to an ending point that I keep this around 15 minutes. So it took a little more looking up. And when I've said before that it's a big enough name, Jimmy Buffett, I'm like, nothing's coming up with this exactly. In Terapeak listed anything. I'm not going to do any more research. I'm paying $2 for these things. Jimmy Buffett is a big enough name, big enough fan base to where it doesn't matter if it's going to be a bootleg. Well, it probably would to some degree. Someone would want it. And so I come home and I look those up with a little more scrutiny. I type in exactly. So the Millennium Concert, there are playlists that are available that mimic exactly what's on the CD. Discogs didn't really show a whole lot about it, if it even had anything at all. There's there's somewhere that I went that gave tad, a tad bit of information in regards to the Millennium Concert. Now, it was, um, I guess you could dub it an unofficial release. So between the two of them, I wasn't, and then the other one is the Sag Harbor. So Jimmy Buffett spent a lot of time. I think he even lived up in Sag Harbor, and he also spent a lot of time up here in the. So maybe an hour and a half drive up west, following the lake west, is going to be Sandusky, Cedar Point, and Put in Bay, Bass Islands, White Island, Mackinac, Mackinac. All that is all right up the lake. So we spent a lot of time up in there and in Cleveland and in the flats, because you go between New York and you just hit that shoreline. There's a lot of really cool shoreline cities. That one is, I think it had something like it had sold, and it wasn't really much, or was a different, like, it wasn't Sag Harbor, it was a different rendition of Sag, but it still kind of had about the same provenance to it, except for the Sag Harbor one. That one there may have been. So I made the executive decision to list that one at like $75, because that's quite a bit more than what the other ones I was just referring to are, and I can't find any other copies of it. And then the Millennium Concert one is up, and it's on sale for $143, $150. That's about the same price range where the Wrigley Field one that I had listed at. Somebody just eventually sent me an offer for $110. So will I take the same chance on that one too? Yeah, that's why I priced it at that. Guess what? Both those already have quite a chunk of views, and I believe one has 3 watchers and the other one has 2, and they've been up for 6 hours. And I've already sent the 5% off offer out, and I use the automatic offers set for a year. Any of that little work that makes it easier. Granted, I'm always checking. Can I send an offer? Is there any send offers available? Are there any send offers available? I'm always checking that, especially when I'm not doing much. But that's one of those to where that media stuff, and I've also included, and I said before, that the media that has signatures that's signed. A good way for you to find something that's signed by someone you want is if I don't know, whichever, a it's a signed book. Go with that. All right, whoever it may be. If they're an author, they're more likely to sign it. If they're not, and if it's an artist, would you want a signed um, artwork or an inlay or a signed CD from your favorite artist or members from a movie or casting or something indie like that? Yeah. Going out finding media, that stuff is so, at least to me, because of the frequency and the thrift stores that I get to, that I'm able to find that stuff, which helps with pricing. Signed books by not really known authors, take a chance if it's 20 cents, right? 50 cents. If not, it's pretty few far between that. Someone who really, it doesn't matter if it's signed or not, you can have it for years. So at some point, yes, it would. But for my case, I want to rotate stuff out. And that's why I do the callings. And every, so when a main sale is done, and now I'm not going to do the sale because I wanted to keep this ready, and I'm at 20 minutes. So I'm at 20, almost 20 minutes. I think just the basic rambling, talking, opining, extolling, whichever word you want to kind of put there, that, you could do a whole Liam Neeson trope. I have a set of skills. It's just things that I've learned, and every person who sells does things different that works for them. And I found it, what do I want to do that works for me? And what is available that's out there that I can buy that people want? And since people want it, it'll sell. and it's cheap and it's easy to work with and it ships easily and all that. And return rate is almost nothing. Almost nothing. Um, yeah, physical media. So I went from canvassing manager and just canvassing in general about 50 to over 50 hours a week by average to I'm still driving, but my destination is more money and then another destination because there's always going to be just you don't know media wise what's going to be in the mix. Whatever store you go to, whatever. I mean, I don't do yard sales often. I will stop them if I see a sign, but you never know what's in and out of there and stuff that you just otherwise can't get rid of. That's not selling, I should say. There's alternatives where you could sell it. You could sell disc media to your local game exchange and places and potentially put them up at a yard sale, which have you, or potentially put them in the lots. But what is ultimately left over, what do you have in it? A buck each? A little less? Who really knows the average at that point? But at least a buck less. So it's not a hard hit. And if anything, you could, let's just say that they're DVDs. You could just put a DVD in your DVD player, one a day, for the next 30 days, 2 months, a year, and there. Now you've got use out of those DVDs that you got. You're probably not going to watch them all. So I think that on that point on why I got into media, what I do is kind of just a little generic explanation, but more like a free talk that I think otherwise it's more worth for people to pick up on. It's either that or I just have a paradigm about wanting to share. I wouldn't quite say it like that because people share. That's what the video platforms are about. Maybe I just always had a paradigm on thinking that other people don't need to see my life or what I'm doing. And then that was a dichotomous world of what I want people to know what I do and what I'm doing because it will benefit them. Uh, Education, philanthropy around the family, I suppose. So I think aside of that, if you have anything that you got from what I just said, as opposed to me saying learn, if you got anything from any of that, feel free to leave a comment. Anything going up helps. Subscribe, share. Those definitely help. The channel is growing. I want to be at 1,000 by my 1 year, which 1 year is in December, so plenty of time for that. It is getting there, and if ultimately again is if you watch any of my previous videos, that's what it is. It's just me. This is what I buy. I got a little bit of reasoning and logic behind why I bought that, and it's just what I bought and what I sold with a little bit of explanation in each video. I'm not in it for the theater. I'm not in it for the facade and this just look, man. This is what I bought. This is what I sold. If you want to listen to on why I bought it and the reasoning behind it and why I can just keep buying stuff and it just sells and it's easy work, keep on listening. Appreciate it. Thank you.